All right, looks like you've got a whole handful of pre-show topics for today.
Well, I had to add something because the actual news was fairly light on. Although we have had something pop up this morning, which I saw you added, which is nice.
Yeah.
But first on my pre-show topics was that my iPhone SE appears to be immortal.
Okay, please explain.
Well, I already told you about this. It survived full submersion for around a minute and actually came out of the water still switched on and functional and is still working now days later. So
Wow.
the original iPhone SE with a fully smashed up screen appears to be 100% waterproof.
I forgot that you had the smashed up screen as well.
That's what makes it even more amazing.
I mean, didn't your last SE die from like falling in some tea or something?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, Johannes put it in a cup of tea.
Interesting. You got a lucky SE this time, I guess.
It must be. Yeah, it must be. Again, it was
So
Johannes. He grabbed
Right.
it. The phone was next to me. I was sitting out the back. He just grabbed it, turned around, and threw it straight into his splash pool.
And did you not notice immediately?
No, I had Paul on my lap, so I couldn't move like pretty quickly because he was just chilling there. And also since it's coming into winter, the splash pool isn't getting much use, so the water's quite murky, and I couldn't actually see where the phone was in the water. It had disappeared into like 3 inches of water. That's how bad the water was. You couldn't see the bottom 3 inches of it. So yeah.
So it sounds like Johannes strongly dislikes the iPhone SE.
Yeah, a bit of that and a bit of everything has to be submerged. Like
Right.
Everything. He's obsessed with just messing with water and sinking things and drowning things, and I don't know, it must be a phase. Although it's been going on for so long now.
Huh. Well, I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck. I would have said that this is a great opportunity to have a phone destroyed so you can pick up the new SE.
Yasmin doesn't listen to this, so I could say that I was secretly hoping that it would be destroyed so I could grab another phone. No such luck.
Huh. Well, at least now you get to wait and see what the 12 looks like and really make up your mind.
That's right, yeah. So the next thing what is the next thing I did there? Actually, I'll do a video transcoding follow-up. So if you remember last show, I was saying I had a whole ton of videos in 4K and H.264, which are taking up huge amounts of space thanks to the SE not being able to record in HEVC, and I wanted to transcode them to HEVC. And your first suggestion was just do it in the workflow, and I just shat all over it right away, like dismissed it. Like there's no way a workflow would be able to do that, right? Well, I came really close to doing it with a workflow, close enough that I should apologize for dismissing that excellent idea. I came so close to doing it with a workflow because, I mean, the complex thing about it was I wanted to like grab the metadata out of the file, the original file, and apply it to the transcoded video file so that the location would be there, the original recording date, and it would appear in photos in the right spot and all that. And I thought there's no way in hell that workflow would do that. And I didn't even think workflow would be able to transcode video. But thanks to an app I've got installed called MetaPho, MetaPHO, it actually adds in metadata actions into shortcuts. And these actions are read metadata, save it to a variable, and then write out metadata to anything you want.
Awesome.
Yeah, but there's a very small hitch, and the only reason that I can't do this to completion is that only works on photos at the moment, not on videos. There seems to be something about the way that Shortcuts handles video files is that it doesn't actually grab like the original video file. It gets like packaged up in some way before it goes into Shortcuts. So the metadata on what Shortcuts receives isn't enough, or isn't the right metadata to add to an outgoing file. And the other part of it, which is transcoding it, is actually built into Shortcuts. So it's a native function. It's just to encode media to your specified
okay.
encoding thing. Yeah.
So, is there a way that you can transcode the video and then somehow, well, no. They just need to add the functionality to get metadata from videos somehow, and then it'll be great.
Yeah, I should get in contact with the guy who makes Metafo.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty responsive on Twitter because I've tweeted him before. See if I can get that added.
So you've transcribed the videos now, but you don't have the metadata transferred?
Right. Well, I haven't even bothered really using this workflow to do it because it would just be too much work at this point to try and remember what's been transcoded and what metadata it should have and all that.
Right.
And actually, I found an app that just does it all for me. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah. There's an app called iCompress. And it does exactly what I mentioned. Grabs metadata, transcodes video, applies metadata, and then even has the option to choose your bitrate, which is nice, and to delete the original video.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like a free app with in-app purchases to unlock more than 30 seconds of transcoding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not expensive either. It's like a couple of dollars.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it wasn't an issue at all, except just that you hadn't looked into it enough.
Well, I thought I had. I looked at probably the top 5 apps when you search like transcode HEVC or something like that on the App Store, and they all uploaded the file to servers and then transcoded it and downloaded it again, which is just a ridiculous solution.
Right.
Yeah. In the end, the way I found this app was someone on Reddit was looking for the exact same thing, and someone had suggested a couple of apps, and this is one of them.
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe it's a fairly new ability that Apple's added.
Yeah, maybe. But, things like, you mentioned like iMovie and LumaFusion have been able to transcode video for donkey's years.
Is that a common phrase over there?
Yeah. Is it
donkey's years?
In fact, I would even shorten it sometimes just to donkeys. You've been able to do that for donkeys.
Well, if you had said that, I would definitely not have understood what you're trying to say. Not that donkey's years makes a lot of sense to me either. I think if I had to come up with a similar expression in the U.S., it'd be in a coon's age.
Oh, that sounds racist.
It does. It originates from some urban legend that raccoons lived for a very long time.
Ah, okay.
So, but yeah, it's kind of problematic to actually use in a conversation.
I just looked up donkey's years, and it looks like it's kind of like a rhyming slang because years sounds like ears.
Oh, I see.
Donkey's ears, donkey's ears. Yeah.
Okay.
Slang.
That's fun.
Do you have much rhyming slang in North America?
Oh man, nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. I've never actually even heard the term rhyming slang before.
Oh, really? I've got a good one that kind of applies to you. Kind of.
Okay.
Not really. Well, what do you think we would call Americans? Well, hang on, let's do this a different way. We often call American, not often, but I guess it's slightly old-fashioned now, but we would call them seppos. See if you can make the jump from seppo to calling someone an American.
Because we separated from England?
No. Good guess.
I have no idea.
But not even close. No, seppos. Seppo is short for septic tank, and septic tank rhymes with yank, which is short for Yankee.
Whoa.
And we call everyone in America is basically a Yankee, although that's slightly old-fashioned, as I mentioned. Right. So that's rhyming slang for you. Americans are seppos.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely don't do anything like that. I'm looking up rhyming slang right now, and it says it's prevalent in UK, Ireland, and Australia.
Okay. Yep. Are there any other good examples there?
I don't. Okay, so apples to mean stairs, because stairs rhymes with apples and pears. This logic makes no sense to me. This is completely foreign.
There is no logic.
Okay, so dog meaning telephone, because dog bone.
This must sound absolutely ridiculous.
The word plates to mean feet, because the original phrase is plates of meat.
Oh, God.
Yeah, this is... Okay, so trouble meaning wife, which I don't even have to explain.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Trouble and strife, apparently, is the original phrase here.
Trouble and strife.
Yeah, I'm not at all familiar with this way to construct slang. This is very interesting to me.
Wow, there's a huge list. I mean, those ones that you said, I don't think I know any of those ones, except maybe the one about trouble and strife. But just looking at the list, here's ones that I think I'd actually know the meaning of, would actually have heard used. Bugs Bunny to mean money. I would know that one.
Okay.
Let's see, what else? Cheese and kisses to mean the missus, like the wife. Let's see. Dead horse, tomato sauce.
Okay.
A Barry Crocker, which is a shocker, just like not very well. Like if you do something like someone makes a bad blunder playing a game of football, whatever, it could be a Barry.
Huh. Okay.
Let me pick one more for you. Oh, if you said something's Mickey Mouse, that rhymes with grouse, which is a term to mean that's good.
I found a couple that are used in the U.S.
Oh yeah,
and I've never thought about them having a relation to rhyming, but I am familiar with the slang. So bread to mean money, because
is that bread, rhyming slang?
Bread and honey apparently is the original phrase.
Oh, okay.
The idea of blowing a raspberry, like a fart sound, because it rhymes with raspberry tart. Are you familiar with that?
Is that why it's called a raspberry?
Yeah.
Huh.
So to... oh man, this has layers to it. So the phrase "put up your dukes" is rhyming slang, because Duke of York rhymes with fork, and fork is Cockney slang for fist. I don't know what I don't know what Cockney slang is. That's a whole other layer.
Cockney slang. Well, that's slang out of a particular part of England.
Okay.
Cockney, where would that be? I don't know.
And the phrase "let's get down to the brass tacks" rhymes with facts.
Facts, yeah.
So those are the list I found for U.S. rhyming slang, and I'm familiar with all of those at least.
Oh, okay.
But I was not aware they were rhyming slang in any way.
Put up your Daisy Dukes. That one is a stretch. Apparently Cockney is like the London area.
Put up your dukes. Not really Daisy Dukes. Daisy Dukes are short shorts.
Oh, okay.
So, taking the Mickey. I've at least heard that phrase used before, but not really in the U.S. Taking the mick, because it's...
That's very English, yeah.
Slang form of taking the piss.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Mickey Bliss.
I would use those interchangeably. Why is Mickey and... How's that rhyming?
Apparently someone named Mickey Bliss, so that rhymes with piss.
Of course. Yeah, everyone knows Mickey Bliss. Right?
Of course, yeah, good old Mickey Bliss.
Apparently he's not even a person.
Mickey Bliss
is a made-up person. If you search Mickey Bliss, you just get stuff on rhyming slang.
He was literally created just to make this rhyme work. See, that's why some of these feel like a stretch to me.
They're all a stretch. Nearly all of them.
But yeah, I was definitely not familiar with that these originated in some kind of rhyming way. That's interesting.
Well, I look forward to hearing them used in future podcasts.
Right. I'll try to slip them in here and there.
All right. Cheers. The last pre-show thing I thought to talk of was Magic Keyboard, because you've got yours in hand now, right?
I do, yeah.
And you didn't last show, did you?
No, I got it the next day.
Mm.
So far, I love it. It feels great. It's completely sat on my desk. I've not taken it off my desk since I got it. But as far as
it's kind of like that, isn't it?
Right, yeah. Which it's kind of freeing in a way, because it's really nice to just hold my iPad. I never did that with the Magic Folio or Keyboard Folio, or whatever it's called. So to be able just to hold my iPad without a case again feels really, really nice. And then to set it on the dock and type also feels better than anything I've ever experienced. And I was surprised how quickly I grew fond of the trackpad. I've used that almost exclusively now when I'm sitting at my desk, and it's excellent.
I think if I had to make one nitpick about the whole thing, it is the trackpad's click. I hate the click on the trackpad. It's
right.
There's too much travel, I think. It kind of feels like a click on a Windows laptop, like a PC laptop. It's not like a nice, precise click. It pushes in too far, and I don't know, the feedback of it is just not nice. So that's my one nitpick of the whole thing.
Maybe you should try out the tap to click.
I turned on tap to click. That's how much I hated the click. I actually turned on tap to click, which I never do on MacBooks. But I don't know, it's not very good either. It seems to miss a lot of taps. So neither the click or the tap is working too well for me.
I turned on tap day one, and it felt a lot more natural to me than on a Mac. I think because I'm so used to the concept of tapping on something on the iPad to select it, that it translated really easily for me there.
Oh, okay.
I haven't had any issues with misses. It's worked great for me. So,
all right. Maybe I'll persist a bit longer with tap to click.
Yeah. And I love that my iPad is always charged now, because my keyboard just stays plugged in, and so it's always sitting there charging.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in the interest...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's one thing that's stopping me from really loving the setup, is that it's not very ergonomic still, looking down like that. If there's some way to use the trackpad and keyboard, but also have it at eye height, then it could definitely be a long-term computer for me. But I'm really crossing my fingers that Apple brings out better external monitor support for the iPad in WWDC, or announces something like that this year. Right, yeah. Because then that's almost like the dockable computer concept coming to full fruition. I mean, you can do it now, it just looks a bit bad.
It's not great.
Having a letterbox. Well, it's not letterbox, it's the opposite, isn't it? Whatever. Black bars down the sides of an external monitor.
Right. Yeah, that would be the dream. I wonder how much work that would actually take to implement, to be able to support kind of, any arbitrary monitor size instead of the predefined screens on their iOS devices.
Yeah. I mean, they've been pushing towards that with auto layout, right? There are all sorts of different screen sizes. And if you get it right, well, apparently it's quite hard. Actually, I know it's quite hard because I've messed with auto layout before.
It is difficult.
And judging by the number of apps on my iPad which don't rotate to landscape because the developer hasn't supported it, it must be really hard. Even for a seasoned developer.
At least, in my experience at least, most of my issues with auto layout have been getting things to look good even on small screens. You can always stretch content and it maybe won't look great, but at least all be functional and still there. So it wouldn't necessarily be awful, at least, to have just a little bit of stretching until people can really nail auto layout.
Yep.
Well, I threw in a pre-show topic as well.
Yeah, sure. I don't understand what it is.
Yeah, so I have been setting up my new place with all of my smart home accessories. And the one hiccup I've always had with smart home stuff is my cameras. I've got Nest cams, and I've had them for years. I think even before HomeKit was a thing. So of course they don't support HomeKit, and they're owned by Google, so there's no like future plans for that. But I found a device last week called the Starling Hub, and it's just a little box that plugs right into your network, and it adds HomeKit support to the Nest cams. So
nice.
So with just a little effort, I just had to plug the box in and then go into settings and add all the cameras, and they're all showing up in my home app. I've got live streams of videos, and I've got access to all the basic like sensor functions, so I can trigger automations off of whether they hear a sound or whether they see a person, and that's been kind of fun to play with.
That sounds really good. So you can go into the Home app and see the video from all your cameras.
Right. So I am missing out. I can see a live stream of the video if I want to see like any recordings, because it records 24/7, stores it for like 5 days. If I want to see that, I still have to go into the Nest app. I can't go back in time from the Home app, but I get a live view, and I can enable like two-way communication, and I can talk to people all from the Home app. So yeah, all the basic functionality is there. I have like probably the world's most convoluted motion sensing light on my back porch now, because when my backyard camera senses motion, it has an automation in the Home app to turn my Hue light in my back porch on.
So who are these Starling people? Like, what's their gig?
You know, Starling is something I've heard of in the past. And there's a whole bunch of companies that are doing like kind of homebrew HomeKit support. A lot of it is like running on the Raspberry Pi, and somehow it's intercepting signals from things like the Ring doorbells or Nest cams, and adding HomeKits to support to them.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of it has been, I've never looked into it seriously because it's been messy to set up, and there's like some nitty gritty settings you got to mess with, and there's maintenance involved, and that doesn't feel like the HomeKit experience to me. But the Starling Hub that I found the other day is kind of just a plug and play device, and so that really appealed to me, and so far it's been working great.
It looks at roughly the same size and shape and design of the Philips Hue bridge.
It's a little smaller than that, but yeah, the same idea. And I haven't opened up the box, but it looks like it also just has a Raspberry Pi in it.
Genius.
So
a bit of marketing and a bit of packaging, a bit of design, and they're reselling a Raspberry Pi.
Right, but it's plug and play, so I'll spend a little bit of extra money to have them set it up for me, and then I won't have to worry about it in the future, hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, eBay here is full of people that have done that for Raspberry Pis. Well, they don't really package it nicely. They just send you the Raspberry Pi, but it's like just pre-configured to do job X, and then they sell it with a small markup on what the hardware would cost them.
Nice. The one thing that I believe I'm missing out on this. I'm almost sure I'm missing out on it. There's no way this added support for this. But the new HomeKit secure video feature that rolled out last year, where your video feed is sent to either an Apple TV or HomePod on your network and encrypted locally and then stored on your iCloud instead of another company's servers. This doesn't add support for that.
Where's your video stored at the moment?
It's all stored with Google, still on a Nest account.
Right, okay.
So still maybe long-term plan to switch over to some cameras that support HomeKit entirely. But this has definitely extended the life of my Nest cams, and I'll keep using them for a few more years at least.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So my biggest selling point of this was there's not a good HomeKit doorbell at all. And so if I wanted a smart doorbell, I'd basically have to use something like a Starling Hub, unless I wanted to pay. It's like $1,500 for the one doorbell that supports HomeKit, and it's made for like an apartment complex. It has like a little screen that displays your name because it's supposed to be like put next to apartment doors, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense as a home device.
What do you want out of your doorbell? Do you want like video feeds, or do you want notifications on your phone? Or
Yeah, I'd love to be able to, if someone rings my doorbell, get the pop-up on my phone. If I'm not home, get the pop-up on my phone and be able to answer directly. I also, kind of with the setup of my new place, I only have 2 outdoor cameras, and that's always been fine, to have one in the back and one in the front. But where I'm at now, I actually park on the side of the house, and the main thing I'm worried about is like keeping an eye on my cars. So I want a camera. I have a camera at the back now. I'm going to be setting one up on the side of the house to watch my cars. Mm-hmm. So my options were either to, like, if I was concerned about monitoring the front of my house in any way, is to get another camera to do that, or to put a smart doorbell in, which is just something I've been wanting to do for a while, but really just waiting for a HomeKit solution. And now I don't necessarily have to wait for that. I can get the Ring if I wanted to.
Okay.
Or the Nest Hello. Ring is a separate box I'd have to buy to add support.
Do these things have to be hardwired in, or do they just run off batteries?
It depends on the doorbell. The Nest Hello does have to be wired in, but it can just run off of usually the transformer that powers your doorbell already. So there's not any extra wiring. If you already have a wired
powered
doorbell.
Doorbells already. Gotcha.
Right.
There are some foreign concept to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There are some doorbells, like the Ring is rechargeable. I think you need to recharge it every couple months or something. So not a bad option if you only have wireless doorbells and you don't want to run a cable to it.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Apple news as well while we're here?
Might as well. We're already here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you hear about Apple's new 13-inch MacBook Pro? New in quotes.
Right. Yeah, this came as a bit of a surprise to me, at least. I would have sworn they were going to be bumping this to 14 inches.
So you're surprised by the fact that not much changed? That's what surprised me.
I'm definitely surprised that the screen didn't change, but I do think they fixed the one thing they had to fix on this, which was the keyboard. Oh,
yeah, they had to. We've had rumors for a long time, though, that the 13-inch MacBook's being updated. And a lot of the rumors said it was going to a 14-inch size as well.
Right.
So maybe that's still in the pipeline, but for now we've just got kind of the same thing with a spec update.
Yeah, kind of a holdover.
It didn't get the 16-inch treatment.
Right.
Did get the Magic Keyboard, which is... it couldn't have come soon enough, really. Knowing that a MacBook Pro sold like a week ago would probably have a failed keyboard by the end of the year was just, I don't know, doing terrible damage still. 4 years on. When
right.
2015 when the first Retina MacBook came out with a bad keyboard. And here we are in 2020 and they were still being sold.
Well, this was the last one. Now there's no more butterfly keyboards being sold by Apple.
Thank goodness.
Interestingly, and maybe a little bit somewhat misleadingly as I read these articles on the release, besides the keyboard being updated, the processor was also bumped to 10th gen, although the misleading part that I seem to read was that all the articles said it was bumped to 10th gen and the computer is starting at $1,300, but at least the first 2 base configurations of the 13-inch model still come with 8th gen Intel processors, and you have to pay $1,800 US to get a 10th gen.
Yeah, a lot of people are angry about that.
Yeah, very interesting choice. I don't know what would have made them decide to keep the old processors around. I guess just a cost thing.
It's kind of like how there used to be the MacBook Pro with 2 Thunderbolt ports and the MacBook Pro with 4 Thunderbolt ports. There's like the MacBook Pro 13-inch, but kind of 2 semi-visible lines of it, and one was a lot cheaper. This feels like that again. You got the cheap one and the expensive one.
The problem is, in the past, it was much easier to differentiate between the cheap MacBook Pro and the expensive one, because it was like the 2011 MacBook Pro with the old unibody design, and then these new ones. And now, unless you're counting ports up and down the side, which you can't even see in some of these product photos, you don't know which one you're buying unless you really dig into it, which I'm sure a lot of people don't know too.
Yeah, it is getting harder and harder, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't even count ports now, can you?
No, they still have two Thunderbolt ports on the 8th gen ones.
Ah, do they? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I did see an interesting video from, is it Dave 2D, maybe? Is that his name? I don't really follow this guy.
Yeah, Dave 2D.
Dave 2D. But he put out a video just to try and calm things down and said that for the vast majority of people, they're not going to notice the difference between 8th and 10th gen. And the 10th gen chips actually cost heaps more from Intel anyway.
Right.
So just be thankful that you can buy a MacBook Pro at this price point. I think was kind of the gist of the video he put out. Which,
okay.
I mean, take it or leave it, but you could look at it that way.
That's a pretty surprising message. Dave 2D's been pretty critical of the MacBook Pros in the past, so he must think pretty highly of these to say something like that.
Let me double check it was Dave 2D. Wait. Yeah, it was that dude. Yeah, for sure.
He's the one that raised the big stink about the overheating issues a couple years ago with the i9s.
That's right.
Yeah.
The standard config for the higher spec models is 16 gig. So that must be on the ones with the 10th gen chips.
Yeah, you still get 8 gigs of RAM in the 2 Thunderbolt versions.
And you can finally get 32 gigabytes, which people have been asking for ages. But it's always been limited by the chips. I don't think the previous 8th gen chips could support 32 gig or something like that.
Yeah, it had to do with the type of RAM they're using, DDR3 versus DDR4. And actually, specifically, the fact that Apple wanted to use low power RAM, and they had to stick with DDR3 a lot longer because there wasn't a low power DDR4 option until just recently.
Right, that's right. See, I knew I could rely on you for the actual details of this news. Is that just about it when it comes to updates? Oh, double the storage, I should say as well.
Right, yeah, you can get up to 4 terabytes now in these.
That's amazing. What's it going to cost you for 4 terabytes?
Too much.
Too much, yeah.
I'm curious. I want to look at the config options for the MacBook Air, because this kind of puts them in a place, where the MacBook Air, you can get a MacBook Air with a 10th gen i5 in it for less than the 8th gen in the MacBook Pro. Of course, you're sacrificing, you're actually losing some. So it's still probably a better deal to go with the Pro, but you could easily configure Air to be more powerful than these base model Pros.
The Air's still a really good choice. Oh, yeah. You think you could make it more powerful? Because the Airs come with like 1.1 gigahertz chips, i5s, compared to these.
Well, for an extra 150, you can get a 1.2 gigahertz i7. I'm not sure what that actually, like it turbos to 3.8, but I'm sure it can't stay there for long.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to see how these compare actually side by side.
That could be a good test. You do get a lot of other things in the Pro though, like faster storage and things like that as well.
Oh yeah, better speakers, better microphones. There's a lot.
Yeah,
to get out of that. Better
actually,
screen.
That's a question better screen. Yeah. Something I didn't see is, did this new 13-inch get the microphone, the studio microphone treatment?
I didn't see anything referencing that, so I would assume that comes with a redesign and not just the spec bump.
Just looking at the specs now, not only the 16-inch has the studio quality 3 mic array with high signal-to-noise ratio and directional beamforming. Quite a mouthful of a microphone spec there.
Uh-huh.
So, I think if you're looking for a truly pro computer, the 16-inch might be the one to get, and then maybe the 14-inch is going to bring the smaller line up to more of a feature parity with the 16.
Right, yeah. If you're looking for a pro computer in laptop form, go for the 16-inch. There's almost no reason in my mind to go for the 13-inch, Because the only reason you'd pick that over the 16 is for portability. And if you really want portability, I'd go with the Air. I don't know. I'm sure there's people that niche would, they want to save those 3 inches and need the extra power. But the Air looks really appealing right now.
Sure does.
And hopefully we'll see a 14-inch Pro in a year or so, at the most.
I really like this comment when I read it when I read it on Reddit from B3NNILL. They say, "I am whelmed by this update." Neither overwhelmed or underwhelmed.
I saw
just whelmed.
I've seen a lot of comments and even posts saying that 2020 is the year of very minor updates for Apple's products. So we get the iPhone SE, we get the iPad Pro that is just one extra GPU core, we get the 13-inch MacBook Pro that's just like a CPU increase, and that's it.
And the iPhone?
Well, to be determined. We haven't seen that yet, but I think the iPhone's going to be big this year, and that's going to be their big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far they have definitely been whelming us.
I love that word. I'm definitely going to use it. Does that exist as a standalone word?
I've heard that joke made in the past, but I haven't actually looked to see if let's see, whelm is to engulf, submerge, or bury.
So it's an archaic word.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can start using it from day to day. I think we should bring whelmed back.
Interesting. Oh, Merriam-Webster Dictionary has a section on can you be whelmed. It looks like it originated in a film called 10 Things I Hate About You in 1999.
I don't know about that.
As a joke, the character Chastity Church asks, "I know you can be underwhelmed and you can be overwhelmed, but can you ever be whelmed?" The answer is yes. Contemporary writers sometimes use whelm to denote a middle stage between underwhelm and overwhelm.
I don't think it literally makes sense, though. If whelmed is to be like engulfed or submerged, then I think overwhelmed is just a sort of an extension on whelmed. So
right.
To be whelmed is the same as being overwhelmed, technically.
That would make sense, yeah. Yeah. What does to be whelmed really mean outside of the context of a joke? Is it just to have no opinion or reaction?
To be whelmed or not to be whelmed? That is the question.
Well, the dictionary seems to think that it's appropriate to use that word.
All right. The Merriam-Webster.
Right.
I think we can move on from whelmed, don't you? What about from the MacBook Pro? Anything more to add?
I don't think there's much more to say about that update.
Well, the other big news of the week is that iOS 13.5 beta makes it easier to skip Face ID if you're wearing a mask.
Right.
A lot of people wearing masks these days with the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, but apparently it's quite frustrating to both wear a mask and rely on Face ID because it just sits there waiting for your face. And
right.
Actually, I can kind of relate to this because on my Touch ID iPhone, sometimes when I'm handling negatives, film negatives, I'm wearing a cotton glove,
mm-hmm.
and I try and unlock my phone, and it doesn't like, if it doesn't detect, like, you can press the home button,
mm-hmm.
and it will never unlock. You could press it a million times and the phone will just never unlock, or give you the passcode option to type in a passcode.
Interesting.
So I can relate that it could be frustrating to try and use Face ID when you're wearing a mask as well.
I mean, I know I've definitely had situations outside of wearing a mask that Face ID has been unresponsive, either because I'm mostly like if I'm trying to unlock my phone while taking a drink of something, or maybe my phone is at an angle it can't see my face completely. So I'm hoping that this will apply to all those situations as well and be, more of a convenience outside of just the current situations.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Is it detecting there's a mask there? Is that what it's doing? Or is it just giving you a quicker fail to passcode? I think I read actually that it's just giving a quicker fail to passcode mode. So
it's almost immediate from the videos I've seen.
Yeah.
So I did see a tweet when this news broke a few days ago, someone saying that it also worked while they were trying to take a drink. So it seems to be not just detecting a mask.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
Yeah, this will be a nice feature to have just in general.
I don't think it's going to come back to Touch ID devices, though, sadly.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. It would be useful. So if you press the home button and it never prompts you for a password, do you have to actually tap on the screen to invoke the keyboard to enter a password?
I have to remove the glove from my thumb, from my hand.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what...
I know if Face ID fails, you can tap on the Face ID text and it'll bring up the keyboard. So I was wondering if that was possible to do if there was any text or anything to even tap on in a Touch ID device.
No, nothing happens. It just... the screen wakes up because of the home button press, but nothing ever happens besides that. Because it's not failing the Touch ID.
Right.
Because it's not really picking up anything except the home button press.
So if you just press the home button with any other piece of exposed skin, that could theoretically pull it up?
Maybe, yeah. But the thing is that through the cotton glove, I can actually operate the touch screen.
Right.
So if the passcode did come up, I could type it in without taking the glove off.
Huh.
It's like this middle state.
Right. Conductive.
I know my mum actually had similar frustrations because her fingerprint seems to have been erased from her finger somehow, and Touch ID just doesn't work from her. And in the end, we just had to disable Touch ID on all her devices because she would have a similar problem. Yeah,
she rubbed her fingerprint off of her fingers.
This is common with old people. Old people's fingerprints aren't as well defined as us young whippersnappers.
Really?
Yeah.
And the device can't just remember this degraded fingerprint as well?
No. Believe me, I've tried on multiple devices that she's owned over the years, ever since Touch ID came out, up until I think the most modern device she's got has got the most modern Touch ID sensor. Mm-hmm. And you could set it up 100 times, and the next day it's not going to pick up her fingerprint.
That sounds like
it's not
a strong case for Face ID.
Yeah, sure does. Yeah. I actually thought it was just my mum for a little while, but then they actually mentioned it on the Vergecast. So I believe it is a widespread amongst old people problem.
I know it's also an issue for people with diabetes or other skin conditions. Drew on Talos of Tech had similar issues where he could never use his fingerprints because I don't know what skin condition he has, psoriasis or something that causes all of his skin to constantly be flaky and peeling.
Also from 13.5 is that you can turn off the incredibly annoying FaceTime chat head zooming feature. Have you been annoyed by this yet?
No, you'll have to explain this one to me.
Well, ever since, if you think back to when FaceTime group chat was announced, right, and they showed that everyone is shown on the screen as a little square bubble, and the person who's speaking will automatically, their little bubble will become enlarged to take up more space than everyone else's.
Sure.
And in a demo, and I'm sure in certain calls that works really well, but in the sort of calls that I have, you don't really have like a defined speaker who speaks for 30 seconds and then the next person takes over and speaks for 30 seconds. It's just like everyone talking all the time. And so you very, very quickly get like this sickening sort of people never stop moving. You can't focus on anything. But yeah, it's a horrible sort of thing to look at. So much so that Apple's decided to give you the option of turning it off. If you imagine like the bubble wallpaper, like where you The bubbles are just always moving around. Imagine that, but the bubbles are people's heads, and you're trying to talk to them in FaceTime.
I mean, this is a common behavior in video chat clients. I use Zoom for work every day, and that's exactly what Zoom does, and it's never bothered me.
Zoom will make the person who's speaking like the big display, right?
Right. I guess there's no animation in and out, and maybe that's the disorienting part.
That is, yeah, 100%. You don't slowly have them like zoom up into the big screen and then someone else starts talking and they start shrinking and the other person starts growing and then that never ever stops.
I have yet to actually try a group FaceTime call, so but if I were to do one, it would probably be like with my kids on their iPods, so I would probably very quickly experience exactly what's being described there.
You should give it a go before 13.5 comes out and you can turn it off just to get a good feeling for it.
Okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
13.5 is also bringing the exposure notification API, isn't it? That's probably the biggest change.
Right. I did see, and I was a little bit confused by this because until seeing this today, I did think this was a 13.5 feature. But looking on the App Store, Apple has the exposure notification app on the App Store already. So I suppose you don't necessarily need to be on 13.5 to use this app.
Really? Okay.
Or maybe this is more of just an informational app.
Maybe. I didn't think Apple and Google were actually making the apps. I thought they were purely making the API and then the health authority or the governments, whoever, would then build the apps on top of the API.
Yeah, I'm reading the description now. This is it's official Apple COVID-19 app, but it's more of just a resource. It's not the actual exposure notification stuff.
Okay. The actual API coming in 13.5 though can't come soon enough because currently, at least this is what the Australian government has done. They've put out their COVID safe app. And the instructions for iOS users, which come in the form of a splash screen, of course, when you start setting up the app, and a push notification every single day, is when you're out and about on public transport or in meetings, you should have your phone unlocked and have the app open for it to do any sort of tracing. And they've even implemented what they call power save mode.
Okay.
And it's similar to, if you remember, the Pokemon Go power save mode where you turn your phone upside down and it dims the screen and then just puts the text COVID safe in white on black. So that's what they call power save mode. And of course, everyone's confused because no one knows, that this is what they mean. They think like it's their power save mode built into the phone that we're supposed to be using, or
low power mode.
Yeah, but no. You're supposed to have the phone unlocked, not use it, of course, because you need the app in the foreground, and then just stick your phone in your pocket like that.
No one's going to do that.
Exactly. No one is going to do that.
And that's the real problem with any app like this. Unless you've got a majority of people using it, it's not going to be very effective.
Yeah, it needs to be effective, and you need to have heaps of people using it, or it's just a waste of time.
Right. Well, hopefully this app adopts the new API when it's available.
It'd be bonkers not to.
I have seen some countries pushing back against this for like security or privacy reasons and saying they don't want to leverage Apple and Google's offerings and they're trying to implement their own. I think some of that's been slowly worked through, and everything I've seen was from European countries. So hopefully everyone's on board with this. I generally would trust Apple with my data. I don't know. Hopefully they keep Google in check if they're working together. But I would trust Apple with this information. No problem.
Yeah, I would too. And from what I've seen of the implementation, it's done well.
Yeah, it's very anonymous.
There's a guy. Yeah, exactly. There's no location data being shared.
Right.
A guy. There's an app developer called Quentin Zervas, something like that. He makes the app Streaks, which is like a classic iOS app. I think it's been around since like day dot, basically, of the App Store, and a few other popular apps. But he's been building and commenting on Twitter on the Apple's API for contact tracing from an Australian perspective as well, because he's an Aussie guy.
Okay.
And everything that he's posting is basically quite positive in terms of what Apple and Google are building, but then of course quite negative on what the government's put out so far. Australian government, at least.
Sure. Yeah, I won't pretend to know a lot from the perspective of an iOS developer, but just as a general software developer who works a lot in web security, everything they're doing seems excellent. So,
more big news from the week, big in quotes, is that Microsoft begins beta testing iPadOS multi-window support for Word and PowerPoint. Now, it was announced so long ago that I'd actually forgotten that it was announced. But
right, yeah, me too.
WWDC 2019 or 2018?
It was 2019.
It was demoed.
Right.
And it's just hit the beta program for Word and PowerPoint. Absolutely bonkers that it's taken so long.
They must have been very, very early in development when they demoed it.
And not even coming to the Excel beta yet?
Seems like it, yeah. Excel seems like, of all of the Microsoft Office apps, I feel like I would very infrequently need to be working off 2 PowerPoints at the same time, but 2 Excel documents is a very common occurrence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd probably rank them Word, Excel, PowerPoint in that order.
Right.
In terms of how often I'm using them or need them side by side.
Right. There's not many apps. I was just thinking when I was reading this earlier, besides Safari, how many other apps actually support multi-window side-by-side like that? I haven't heard of any.
Notes?
Sure. Is there any non-Apple apps, though?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't have my iOS in front of me, my iPad in front of me to check, but let me just have a think. Struggling to think of any right now.
Right.
There's only a certain class of apps where you actually want to do this.
Sure. Yeah, word processing is probably the most common of all of them.
I can't think of any that I would use on a regular basis. Often enough that I actually remember that they do it.
Right. Yeah.
And more often than not, I get into like this side-by-side mode by accident because I'm trying to drag a Safari tab and it's near on impossible just to
right.
change the order of Safari tabs and it ends up as a separate window.
Right, yeah, I'm in the same boat. The only thing I can think of, this is coming from a desktop experience, like programs that I use multi-windowed, I think of things like maybe video or photo editing apps that have like palettes on the side and tools that you could maybe put in its own window on an iPad. I don't know if that makes sense to translate that way, but yeah, there's not a lot that makes sense to have running multiple instances of the same application.
No. I do try and keep my windows like as simple as possible, so I'm not often looking for a multi-window sort of setup either.
Right. Yeah, I'm rarely even in a split screen mode.
Yeah. I think running the podcast is like one of the only times I'm doing it, like Safari and the notes or Ferrite.
Right. I feel like I may be in that situation more often if Xcode comes to the iPad this year. I could definitely see myself needing multiple Xcode windows.
Look, I'm not saying Xcode's coming, but Final Cut Pro is coming. Or what was that crazy tweet? Like, I'm not saying X, but Y.
Yeah, he said, I'm not saying Final Cut Pro is coming, but Xcode is in the latest version of the iPad beta or something.
Interesting. Multi-window support for Word is certainly important, but Word just, as it is, just doesn't work nicely on the iPad. It's like a fight to use Word on the iPad. Constantly battling it, doing stupid stuff, like just, I don't know, moving the cursor around and then suddenly the document jumps somewhere else and then trying to, I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be like a native implementation of like cursor and text selection. I don't know. It's hard to describe. but it doesn't feel like the rest of the iPad when you're trying to get stuff done. It feels like there's too much custom stuff that doesn't work well.
Right. I can't even say that I've used Word in any real capacity on the iPad. I have it installed to open Word documents when I need to, but if I'm writing something, I always use Pages.
Yeah, okay, yep. I think it's probably... I would do that too if it was something personal, but because I'm trying to use the iPad as like my work computer, often don't have that choice.
Well, you can export as a Word document from Pages.
Yeah, but it's more like someone wants to track the changes of what I'm doing before I send the document back, so I'm not exporting and importing because then all the track changes are gone.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's impressive that you get change tracking on the iPad app at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, obviously they're still working on it, so I'm looking forward to becoming a little more less of a fight to use.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
Last topic, and this is pretty new. Would you like to take it, this one?
Sure.
Take point.
Yeah, Apple just today announced that their virtual WWDC will be starting on June 22nd. And maybe this was clarified in the past, but something that I just realized from reading the article is that this will be free to anyone who wants to attend any of the sessions through the developer app.
Was it... What would you think? Did you think they might be charging for it? To have like a virtual thing? Because previously you could watch all the videos for free already.
I mean, I've definitely seen conventions, especially this year with everything being canceled, charge some nominal fee for live attendance and then later upload everything.
Yeah, I guess from that perspective it would make sense.
Assuming, I don't know if they will, and I guess probably not, that they were going to have some kind of like live QA option or anything, or like, question and answer sessions. I don't know how much of that's actually going to be brought over. But if there's not really any live parts, then yeah, it would make sense for it all to be free.
The most disappointing thing is we have to wait until nearly the end of June for it. I was kind of hoping like early June.
Right?
June 22? What?
I'm really curious to see, because they still have to do their keynote. I'm curious to see what that's going to be like with just, Tim Cook on a stage and no one in the audience except maybe like a handful of Apple employees clapping after everything.
They've just got Johnny Ive. They brought him back just to sit in the crowd. No. They brought Shia LaBeouf to sit in the crowd, just him, to sit there and clap.
Maybe there won't be the traditional keynote address, and there'll be like just pre-recorded stuff that they'll be playing to demo all the products.
So less actual talking heads on stage time, more just videos, demo videos.
Right. Yeah, they'll have like an announcement video for individual products or something. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how they handle that.
Barbecue 6 in the comments says, I'm going to WWDC this year. Woohoo.
That was kind of the same notion I had when I read that it was going to be free for everyone.
So do you have to be part of the Apple Developer Program for attendance still? Like with an annual subscription?
I'm not sure. It says on their release that it'll be free for developers through the Apple Developer app, which is a free app. Well, actually, maybe let me reread this. It'll be in the Apple Developer app and on the Apple Developer website for free for all developers. So maybe developers can get to it on the website for free and everyone else has to use the app. I don't know what they're trying to say there.
It'd be crazy just to not make it free for everyone, because
right,
eventually everyone can just watch it for free anyway. So
maybe this is kind of what I was thinking. The developer app will be what it always is and have the sessions uploaded to it. But for developers, if they go to the developer website, there will be Q&A and maybe a little bit more interactive experience.
Yeah. Apparently that's the latest it's been since 2004.
Really? Wow. I think I can manage the wait. The only thing that means, well, it means a couple things. hopefully whatever they're working on will be more polished by then. So the first new betas of iOS 14 will be, more like beta 2 that we've been getting in the past years. And then we have to wait a short amount of time between announcement and official public release as well.
Yep. That'd be nice.
The only thing I'm hoping for out of iOS 14 is Xcode and iPadOS. As long as I get that,
that's it.
I'll be happy. Okay. There's nothing else.
That's your one square on the bingo card, hey?
That's a big square though.
Yeah,
like that's a huge ask.
It takes up the entire card.
Right,
just that one thing.
Well, I still get the free space in the middle that like Tim says good morning, and we have, the best products we've ever made or something.
Not even Mac OS on ARM. What about something like that? Or is that next to it?
I guess
is that a separate bingo card?
Yeah, so I'll have a Mac OS and an iOS card. Yeah, I guess this would be the time to announce it if they're going to.
Seems like it.
It seems like if they don't announce it at WWDC this year, that means we're going to have to wait a whole year for them to do it at next WWDC.
Yep.
So, yeah, fingers crossed on that one too.
It's probably just like some sort of preview or early demo if they do announce it. So if we have to wait until next year, then we're talking like 2022, 2023 for products.
Right, yeah. Maybe this is the selling point. Like, this is how it all ties together. If they're going to have ARM Macs, they're going to need a way for people to develop ARM Macs before they come out. So they're putting Xcode on the iPad so that you can make these ARM apps and run them on a virtual Mac OS on an iPad Pro.
It's like the yin to the yang.
Right. It all comes together.
Do you think the Mac OS apps would be like a window on the iPad, or would you actually like boot into Mac OS on the iPad?
Man, I don't know. I don't even know how to begin a thought about that. I mean, Apple's also been emulating ARM devices on their Macs for years, so they could easily just emulate it as well.
Yeah.
But man, it'd be cool to see something like that on the iPad.
Well, I remember how many features were announced last WWDC. It was insane.
It was a big year. iPad OS and everything else.
Maybe this is just going to be a talk year and we get some smaller things.
And Apple will continue to whelm us.
Well, that's the perfect way to end the show. I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And leave any comments on the subreddit, reddit.com/the_Apple_show.
So I finished Devs.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Please give me your feedback.
Okay.
Because I've actually heard a lot of feedback from other sources since I finished watching it. So
really?
Keen to hear yours, yeah.
Okay, so I need to set the stage for this because when I started watching Devs, I texted you and told you I was just starting it. And your response to me was it was 90% great and 10% shits the bed. And I asked you where the 10% was, expecting you to say something like, oh, it's just slow. It's, get through the first episode and it's great. Because everyone says that about their favorite shows. Like, oh man, get through the first episode, get through the first season sometimes, and then it really picks up.
Classic line.
So I thought you were going to say something like that, but instead you say episode 8. Like, you were very specific about where you were unhappy with it. So I was going into it kind of with this like looming thing over me the whole time, like, oh man, it's going to get real bad. And in my head, based on your math, when you said 90 and 10%, I'm like, okay, so it's a 10 episode season and 1 episode is bad. That's what I was thinking going into it. I didn't look ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I'm watching through, and it's really good. I really enjoyed Devs, and I don't want to say anything about it because half the fun of the show is like not knowing what's going on the whole time and learning as the season progresses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I get to episode 8, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I don't know what they're going to do here, but apparently it completely falls apart in this episode. And I watched it, and I watched it. And I'm like, first of all, I was okay with episode 8. I thought it was okay. I thought it was good, and I thought the season kind of alluded to that's what they were working towards. But I was mostly okay with that. Going, okay, so now there's going to be 2 episodes after this, expanding on this new concept of the situation they're in now, and only then did I realize that was the end of the season. And So that made
blame it all on me as well.
I mean, I don't know if I want to blame you specifically, because actually going into episode 8 not thinking it was the season finale, I mean, I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad, and maybe it was my mindset going into it that made me think that.
But now you know it is the finale. It's bad, right?
I don't hate it. I'm curious to hear why you disliked it so much, because I felt like the season was definitely alluding to this is what they were trying to achieve. It maybe feels like a bit of a cop-out for everything that happened the whole season. I can see that. But I'm curious what your thoughts were.
Just that there was so much potential to expand upon this whole world and concept and everything, and then they just went with that and then called it a day. Like, there's no season 2.
Right.
Like, that's it. That's probably it. It's my disappointment that's it, and we're never, ever going to hear from these characters again.
I mean, I don't know anything about this show. Is there like definitely not going to be any more seasons after this?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it was just called a mini series from the start. Like, this is it. 8 episodes and end.
I agree with that thought then. I think if the show is going to continue on, that episode 8 on its own is fine, but to have that be the wrap up, it's I don't want to spoil it in any way, but it's such a cliche kind of cop-out way to end the season and make almost nothing that happened the whole season matter.
That's it. Yeah, it just feels like 1 to 7 are a waste of time to watch. Right.
But it was, I mean, it wasn't a waste of time. It was an enjoyable show to watch.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I liked it quite a bit.
Good. So, well, apologies again that my bad maths did that to you. Although it was kind of like, I guess it kind of was a self-fulfilling prophecy of bad maths.
And I don't think it was that bad, because even if we take out the part that was like you didn't like, most of episode 8 was still really good too. Mm-hmm. So it probably was like 90 and 10%. And I was just thinking that it was a whole, just because the way you said episode 8 shits the bed. I'm like, oh, okay, that's just a bad episode to write off. But yeah, no, I think your maths work out there still.
All right, cool. That's too funny the way that worked out.